All right, let's talk about it. That feeling you get, especially around Valentine's Day, that you're somehow playing a high-stakes game for your own self-worth. You know? It feels like the whole thing is rigged from the start, and the only jackpot is getting some kind of external validation. But what if I told you that in this casino, the house always wins? Unless, that is, you decide to change the game completely. So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we're going to look at the problem head-on, what I call the slot machine of worth and the self-worth stock market. Then, we'll dive into the psychology of why we get so addicted to validation. And then the good part, we'll get to the solution. We're talking about building your own gold standard, taking your stock private, and finally realizing that you are the house. Okay, so let's start with the casino itself. Just imagine Valentine's Day is the ultimate slot machine of worth. Every single year, millions of us. We put our self-esteem right there on the table, we pull that lever, and we just hold our breath, asking ourselves a bunch of really anxious questions. And it usually starts with this classic gamble, right? The reels are spinning. Is there going to be a delivery, some big grand gesture? This is the first bet you place in this whole game of external approval. And then, of course, comes the digital pull of the lever. Because in the world we live in now, public validation can feel like actual currency. A post, a tag, a story. I mean, it's a public declaration, and it can feel like everything is riding on it. But this question right here gets to the real fear that's driving this entire game. Underneath all of it, the question isn't really about flowers or Instagram. It's about this deep, fundamental fear of being seen as alone, and because of that, being seen as somehow less valuable. But here is the absolute truth of it. If your value depends on this machine hitting the jackpot, you have already lost. See, if it hits 0, you feel worthless. But even if it hits jackpot, that feeling, it only lasts for about 24 hours. The game is designed this way because, well, the house always wins. So let's zoom out and see how this little slot machine game builds into an even bigger, way more volatile system. We're not just playing a game. We've basically turned our entire identity into a publicly traded company. And this is what creates something called psychological volatility. You know the feeling. When you put your self-worth on the open market, your internal value skyrockets with a text back and then absolutely plummets when you're ignored. You're letting all these external things you can't even control dictate your internal price. And let's just be real for a second. It's kind of absurd when you think about it this way. You're letting a commercial holiday, one that was designed to sell cards and chocolates, perform a deep, invasive audit of your fundamental worth as a human being. It's wild. So why is this cycle so ridiculously powerful? I mean, why do we keep going back to that slot machine even when we know the odds are stacked against us? Well, it turns out there's a really powerful psychological reason for it. It's this little thing called intermittent reinforcement. It's the exact reason why gambling is so addictive. See, it's not getting a reward every time that gets us hooked. It's the complete unpredictability of the reward. Because you're never sure if you're going to get that little hit of validation, you end up craving it even more. Now, I know this is a stark comparison, but it's a powerful one. The lab rat that's frantically pressing a lever just hoping for a little food pellet, is that really so different from us compulsively checking our phones, just hoping for a notification, a text, any sign that we matter? So here's the bottom line for this whole section. Valentine's Day takes this insecurity and it gamifies it. It creates a deadline for your validation and it forces you to look up at the scoreboard. But you have to remember, that scoreboard is fundamentally and intentionally rigged against you. Okay, enough about the problem. It's a pretty bleak picture, right? So how do you walk away from the casino? This is where everything pivots to the solution. It is time to build your own internal source of value, your own personal gold standard. I want you to think of it this way. External validation, it's like fiat currency. Its value is just printed by other people and it can change on a whim. But your intrinsic worth, that's the gold standard. It's solid, it's stable, and it is owned entirely by you. Its value is inherent. And the way we build this is through something psychologists call self-concept clarity. It's really just a fancy way of saying you have a stable and confident understanding of who you are. It means you forge an identity that is rock solid, completely independent of whether you're single, dating, or married. It's about knowing who you are at your very core. So what does that actually look like? Well, these are your gold bars. These are the non-negotiable truths about yourself. I am disciplined. I am creative. I am kind. I am resilient. The value of these things doesn't go up or down because someone didn't buy you chocolates. A gold bar is worth the exact same in a vault as it is on the street. Okay, so now we have our gold standard. The next step is a really big one. It's time to take some decisive action and just remove your self-worth from public trading altogether. And it's actually a pretty simple 2-step process for this Valentine's Day, and honestly, for every day after. First, you have to consciously decide to stop playing the validation game. Then, you formally delist your stock. You decide that your value is no longer up for public negotiation, period. This is the mindset you want to have. Love and appreciation from other people, they're wonderful things. They're a bonus. They're the icing on the cake. But you have to know deep down that you are the whole cake. You are complete, you are valuable, and you were already baked long before anyone else came along. This right here, this is the goal. Taking your company, your sense of self, completely private. Its value is determined by you, and by you alone. It is no longer subject to the whims of the market. And that brings us right to the final, and honestly the most powerful shift in perspective. We started this whole thing with the idea that the house always wins. Well, it's time to realize who really owns the casino. You have to stop looking for the jackpot in someone else's eyes. You own the casino. You are the house. You are the one who sets the odds for your own happiness, and you determine the payout for your own self-worth. You are in complete control. So, what do you think? If this explainer helps shift your perspective even a little bit, make sure you subscribe to Mind Logic for more content just like this. And hey, if you're ready to take your self-worth off the market, go ahead and drop a heart emoji in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.